is 7 p.m., so I'll go ahead and call the Nottingham Planning Board meeting for Wednesday, February 26, 2025 to order. I'll go around the room, have everybody introduce themselves.
Skip Severance.
Chris Evans.
John Moore.
Teresa Bascom.
Edward Veal.
Drew Stevens.
Doug Cummings.
Larry Haney, SRPC.
And so we have a couple of public hearings on the agenda tonight. Two are continued. There's a tentative conceptual, which I do not think we'll be discussing tonight. So we'll take these in order. The first is case number 25-003 SIT, Nottingham Business Park, 145 Old Turnpike Road. Application from Nottingham Business Park LLC for a site plan review. Property is located at 145 Old Turnpike Road, Nottingham, New Hampshire, identified as tax map 003, lot 010. We held the initial public hearing for this on February 12th, 2025, 2 weeks ago. The application was accepted as completed. We had had a motion that this was not a development of regional impact at this time. There was a waiver request for access to well. That was approved. And then after that, the case was continued to tonight to discuss a few items, knowing that it would have to be continued again after that. But and then the applicant has since submitted a request or a special exception to the ZBA, I believe, for permitted uses in the commercial industrial district, and I believe they'll be on that agenda for March 18th. So is anybody for the applicant that would like to just introduce yourself again, if you don't mind, sir? And,
my name's Chris Annis, and I'm the project manager for De Niro Construction in Nottingham Business Park.
And sir, so kind of what we had left it from the last time, there was a couple of items that I took on as homework, and then there was gonna have a touch point to make sure that something got out to engineering. But before I go into those, did you have anything you wanted to touch on, or you?
No, I just,
here.
any questions you have regarding that, Blair sent us out 4 or 5 items that you want to talk about tonight, and I'm here to answer them the best I can.
Perfect, thank you for that. So one was, we were expecting the hydrogeological study. I don't think that's been submitted yet. Do you know?
I know it has been, yes.
It has?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know when?
I was told it's been submitted. I was told by the engineering that it was submitted.
I think so. I will look again.
Okay.
What was the name of the company?
Millennium Engineering?
Well, Alana's looking at that, so we'll check on that.
Would it have been submitted to the engineering firm?
No, it should
Should have
come directly to us, and then we usually submit, but that's something that.
I think I did see that it might have been sent to the engineering firm.
Directly, okay.
Yes.
So we can reach out to CMA. So we did reach out to CMA, which is the engineering firm we generally contract with, to get them moving on it, to give them a kind of a scope of the plan, or scope of the review, knowing that piece was pending but should be coming soon as well, and then requested that they provide an estimated timeline of completion for that. We haven't gotten that back yet, but there was a quick turnaround time, so as soon as we get that can be communicated to you all from our department, if CMA doesn't communicate it directly. There was a request from Mr. Moulton to talk about potentially like the board giving their blessing on for the building inspector to do an electrical permit, and where we kind of sit with that now, or where I sit with that thought on it now is we want to be as accommodating as possible, but it's kind of putting the cart before the horse if we were to try to say we give the blessing for more development to occur before there's an approved site plan. Because right now, there's nothing approved over there, so.
My biggest concern is safety.
Yeah.
And, you start bringing people in, even in the daytime, when that's going to be kind of dark, and we bring people in, potential tenants, and, I don't want a lawsuit.
Is there any electrical inside the building?
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
We have a temp service that comes to the side of the building.
Yeah. So again, the issue is, I understand this is kind of a unique property in that it already had a partial structure there, and I know there were some extraneous timeline things that delayed this for the site plan, because originally, it was kind of the town was moving forward to allow buttoning up of the structure, as long as the site plan was before us, but then the site plan stalled and got pulled back. And I know the reasons for that. Mr. Moulton made a good point on all those at the last meeting. But again, now we're kind of at a point where if we continue to allow or say that we're okay with additional work continuing, there's no approved site plan, so we're just opening up a whole slew of issues. So I think we need to let this process continue to move forward, and we'll continue to move forward as quickly as possible. You know, right now, we're just either waiting on the hydro study, or if it just came in and went to CMA, they've got what they need to do the review. They've got all the materials from us already. That was the only piece they didn't have. And then the ZBA is coming up in March. So we would be looking to, you know, have further discussion probably on that March 26th meeting, or if you preferred, the first April meeting, which would be April 9th, but.
Well, we prefer the 26th.
Yeah, so I would always say, go to the earlier one, and you can always push it if for some reason, you know, a delay occurs because of deliverables or anything like that.
May I ask a
Yeah,
question?
of course, yeah.
I don't mean to be a pain about pushing that light issue, it's just that, what if we promise that that's all we want to ask to do is just the lighting? I mean, it's,
Yeah,
again, it's a safety issue, and as it is already, our building's insured by Lords of London, nobody else would touch it.
yeah,
So, because of, you know, no fire hydrants around the whole area,
right.
so,
Yeah, it's a vacant structure too, so that's,
Right, I mean,
it's gonna be, that's where it would be.
and it's not like we're gonna light up the whole building.
Yeah.
It's gonna be what we call our emergency lighting.
Yeah, but I don't think, so even if we were to say we were fine with it, it would still go back to the building inspector and, you know, and, again, there's just no approved site plan for this right now, so I think we have to let this go through. You know, I likened it to allowing somebody to build a house and then put everything in, but then, you know, and then disapproving a plan, or waiting, the plan's not approved and they can't do anything with that house.
I know
Chicken
it's a
and egg
neat
situation
situation,
and-
I know it's, right,
Yeah.
we appreciate that, I mean,
Yeah. So again, I think, you know, the board will continue to try to move forward as quickly as possible, you know, to not delay anything unreasonably. But I think we do have to let the process play out, and we'll continue to move forward with that. One thing we haven't talked about as a board, and I think would probably be good to get done, is, well, the board can decide, is a site walk. I don't know how many people have ever been on the site. I've never been on the site. I know where it is. I've seen the satellite images of it and everything else, but if anybody thinks a site walk would be pertinent, I would recommend that we do that before the next meeting, so that, again, not delay anything further.
we'd be more than happy to have you come up and take a walk around, you know, probably like around 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
What do you say, bring flashlights?
As I say, oftentimes we've been, in the winter, we usually do them on a Saturday morning, just because of the, obviously.
Just keep in mind that there is mud around and there is snow, but I mean, I'm sure you'd love to take a look at the progress that we've done to the building
Yeah.
and how it's coming along. I mean, we're very proud of it, so I'd be more than happy to,
It looks awesome. I have been by.
Good,
It's
I'm
awesome.
glad.
Yeah.
So again, that's the will of the board, but if anybody would, if the board feels like a sidewalk might be relevant, I would recommend that gets scheduled before the meeting on the 26th. So
Would that be Saturday, March 22nd?
that, or I'm sorry, or that would work, or I just meant before, so either before town elections or before that 26th
Before
meeting.
town election?
Before, that's,
They can be, but we would,
Would it make sense to hold a site walk if half the board's about to turn over?
I would recommend that anybody that's running for the board be extended make sure that they're aware that the sidewalks can.
Give them an
gonna be-
invitation.
Yes.
Okay.
Obviously, public is always welcome to go, but again, for continuity purposes, I would recommend, because they're not gonna be on the board before they could agree on that date anyway, whatever date
What is
set.
the zoning board date, Teresa?
The 18th? So it's,
18th?
yeah, it's just a little over a week
it's
prior
the,
to
it's the
our
day
board.
prior to our next one, the next
March 18th.
planning board.
Yeah, with the planning board, the 19th is the no business. And then
Ed, may I
26th.
ask a question?
Of course.
So the holdup here is there's no site plan. What is holding up the site plan
Uh,
for approval? Is it just the hydrology study?
That, and then obviously the engineering review of the items that have been submitted.
Okay.
So this process, basically.
All right, so the applicant submits the site plan.
And, I'm sorry, and the ZBA portion of it, waiting for them to
Okay.
get action on the special exception.
Have you guys submitted the site plan?
I
Yeah, the
believe-
site plan is
yes.
this, I'm sorry. So this process that we're handling right now is the site plan. And then between the last meeting and this meeting, a special exception, application was submitted to ZBA. I'm getting confirmation by Alana. So everything has been submitted. We're confirming about the hydro study, because that might have been submitted directly to the engineer instead of through the town.
I apologize, I didn't bring my phone in with me, or I could have looked it up, that, who we sent it to, I mean,
We'll find out by tomorrow, so,
Can I ask you a
yeah.
question? Is that the same as the stormwater report?
It could be listed as that,
Because
potentially.
a stormwater report was submitted and has been posted with everything else.
No, that would be
There's
separate.
this was a hydro report.
Hydrogeology for the well and the water system.
Yeah, no, it is, yeah, it'd be separate from that one.
I mean, I know I saw it, I'm almost positive, I think it went to the CMA.
Yeah,
Right.
we'll confirm by tomorrow or Friday at the latest, if they have that. And again, we already submitted everything else to them with the comments and everything else that had come back from your engineering firm. And we were just waiting on that piece. So if they have that, then they've got everything they need to move forward.
They're pretty quick too, to respond, so as soon as they get their stuff.
So does the
Keep it
board,
moving.
does the board want to hold a site walk? Yes, no?
I would like to. I haven't been to the property, and I think it makes sense. This is a pretty big and complex site with a lot of history, so to me, it makes sense to arrange for a public site walk.
I agree.
I think March 15th might be a good date for that. Does anybody have is there anything else?
The only thing with,
Looking at-
the only thing with that is that it puts us in a weird spot with like
Oh, I guess
because of the
we'll have a public
elections.
meeting.
So I would
Right,
say
okay.
March 8th is a Saturday before elections, so we're a regular board, or go to the 22nd, I think it was.
That's right.
I think that's beyond the appeal period.
Are you mostly closed in, or are
cannot
you
do the
working
8th.
around?
Right now,
Something
it's
going
all the metal's been
Or should do it
put
in the
up, all the
afternoon.
purlings, all the window openings. We have, the block work is done in the front of the building. And now they're getting ready to put the skin on, so the skin should be starting to be put on, well, even the March 8th, is that what you said, or there'll be skin being started to, applied to the building, yes.
So there seemed like there was a discrepancy between the lighting inside, and then also that Mr. Moulton also wanted to put lighting outside. And-
Well, we know-
And that's kind of I think, a problem.
Yes, well, we know that the outside has to be approved, obviously, by the planning board to know, what kind of light's gonna be shining on other people's properties, and I think the closest property is almost like 1,200 yards away, or I forget the name of that subdivision that's next to us.
Lincoln Drive.
Other than Austin has his piece of property right there. But we're talking about just lighting on the inside of the building.
Okay.
Because obviously, we have to have the input from the site plan where all the exterior lighting is going. I mean, we're not talking about any light poles or, any of that kind of lighting. We're talking about anything in the inside of the building only.
Have you gotten any interest from a potential tenant? Any interest at all?
Yes, we have, we're dealing with about 3 or 4 different companies right now. We have positive attitudes, but nothing's actually signed. So we're not going to say who they are or whatever, but
Sure. But you're gonna get the lights on, so you can show it to them.
yes.
Yeah. Have they not seen it?
They were there, actually, believe it or not, most of them were there before we even started doing all the repairs. And it's like night and day compared to those days. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, you will see it.
Yeah, I tried to make my way in, and I think I went the wrong way.
I
So
think you
was
went
gonna-
probably in the new entrance.
There's a new entrance?
Well, yes, that's where our sign is, and that's where the for sale sign is, the lease sign, and then,
Okay. I tried to come in from Route 4, that wasn't even plowed.
no, because we can't touch anything over there yet until we have our site approvals.
Okay.
So what we do is we come in we're 155, right across the street from Shea Concrete.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way we'd like to have you guys come in.
Okay.
So there's 2 tentative dates for a site plan that have been, a site walk that have been thrown out, March 8th and March 22nd, both are Saturdays. It's totally up to the board as to which one.
Did you mention there was something with the March 22nd date being past a certain deadline? or something?
I can't remember what the timeline is for after, I think that's plenty, elections are the 11th? Oh, yeah, that's plenty, that's plenty of time. Basically, it's waiting to make sure you're beyond like the, appeal period
yes.
for recounts and things like that.
We need
so-
a time frame to post a date for a public walk,
We
or?
would be fine on either of
Okay,
those,
okay.
yeah, yeah, if we couldn't do it this weekend, basically, is, you know, that'd be
Right.
too soon, but after that, we definitely have time for either of those weekends.
March 22nd at 10 a.m., would that work for other members of the board? Would that work for the applicant as well?
I'm very flexible, so
Okay.
that's my job.
I will make a motion to hold a public site walk for case 25-003, site review Nottingham Business Park for March 22nd at 10 o'clock a.m.
Second,
Third.
So the motion by Mr. Stevens, second by Mrs. Bascom, to hold the site walk on Saturday, March 22nd at 10 a.m. All those in favor, please say aye.
aye.
All those opposed? Any
Abstain.
abstentions? All right.
I won't be on the board at that time.
Mr. Cummings abstained, so it counts, it's 6-0-1. And what I'd recommend is, I think there's plenty of parking on Route 4 right there to be able
No,
to. get out
just
there,
come
so-
right on the don't
Yes,
park out on
okay.
Route 4. Come right in the property.
So-
You guys just leave, Doug.
So there's enough, so that, as the applicant said, the entrance that you use is right across from the Shea Concrete on Route
Correct.
4.
Yeah.
So you should be, and it'll be plowed, so you should be able to park right there, right on site and be.
I think there's a solar eclipse that day.
That's the 14th?
No,
I looked at it because that's the night I'm flying out to Florida.
All right,
They have those big generators, you start them and the big lights, we used to have that at the football
My
game.
bright lights on my truck will work fine.
They had, yeah, had those too.
so I think that's all we had, that we had talked about potentially following up for at this meeting.
Okay.
So we would look at now to continue to another date and time certain. And again, the board's next meeting for business is March 26th. Is that,
and that's, he said he preferred.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
And again, if we get the review back from our engineering firm in between, that'll usually get shared to you and your engineering firm, so you can have time to potentially comment back. But once we have the estimated timeline on that, if it looks like it'll be beyond that or anything, for some reason, we'll let you know.
I have a neighbor that's gonna be on the ballot for the planning board.
Okay.
I just notified him.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll coordinate too, to make sure that anybody that, if the town has their emails, that they get made aware. That
I'll
they'll
make-
have a deliverable.
I'll make a motion, for case 25003, that we, continue to March 26th at 7 PM here.
Second.
That's a motion by Mr. Evans, second by Mr. Stevens, to continue to March 26th at 7 PM. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Yeah.
Got an abstention? Mr. Cummings abstained.
Just a question.
Yes.
You say that you're not gonna be on the board. How much, what's the turnover?
I'm not gonna be here.
Is,
I'm not gonna be here.
yeah, there's,
It's gonna be significant.
So what happens, do we start all over again? Or never?
no, no.
No.
There's.
My
three-
counterpart's sitting right back there, he's been at all the meetings, so.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
and there's 3 of us that are on the board that will be
It'll
continuing.
be continuity, don't,
And then
I
it's,
was just, I just wonder all of a sudden,
yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
and
we'll
it's
have
good
new
that you
faces,
ask, because you're gonna be like, when you come in and see
right.
these different faces, but
Yeah,
yes.
so it is up to.
Johnny, you no longer gonna be on the board of selectmen either?
Yeah, no, I'm actually taking a year off from doing anything.
Oh,
So I'm finally stepping away.
that's, sorry to see you go, but,
Well, I mean, I'm back someday, just not next year.
but we have other.
Thank you,
We're
though.
gonna be coming before the board for stuff down the road anyway, so I'm sure we'll see you down the road.
But we will make sure that for anybody that is running or gets elected, that, you know, they'll get shared the current case information. So ideally, they'll either read minutes, re-review cases, ask questions, to familiarize themselves ahead of time.
Okay.
Yep, I appreciate it.
Very good.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is case 25004 LLA, Johnston Trust, 39 Moores Road. That's an application from Franklin Vera Associates on behalf of Susan Johnston, requesting a lot line adjustment. Property is located at 39 Moores Road, Nottingham, New Hampshire, identified as tax map 72, lot 22. Again, we had held the initial public hearing for this 2 weeks ago on February 12th. The application was accepted as complete. We voted that it was not a development of regional impact, and it was continued to tonight to allow for some, I think, minor edits to the plan. An additional waiver has been submitted, and I think the applicant submitted the minutes from the select board meeting and files showing that the lots were approved to be unmerged by the select board.
And just so you guys know, that when the select board saw this case, since I was there and I signed on it, this plan is detailed like this, was not presented in front of us. What was presented in front of us is, there was 3 lots of records that were there. That the third lot, which they're making the third, lot from, was not cutting through the house. It was its own parcel. Now they're making this little line here to get that distance from the house. So with everything we did by granting this approval was perfectly okay, because again, it was a vacant lot of record. It was just combined. That's why we signed off on it.
But it was actually undoing 4 lots, right?
Well,
Not-
right, because of the back one, but
Okay.
again, the lot that they were proposing was just a vacant, empty lot.
So Drew, there's 2 processes under, it's RSA 674-39A and AA, for lot mergers and unmergers. So one is to unmerge them and then merge them back together, and then, so that there's part of this application in the notes is a note to merge the lots, and then there's a lot line adjustment, so there's 2 parts to this.
And if you don't mind, if you can identify yourself, sir, and,
Good evening to the board. My name is Ryan Fowler with James Vera Associates and Franklin Vera Associates. I'm here tonight presenting this lot line adjustment. My colleague, Jason Franklin, was unable to attend tonight, so I'm here in his place. He had a conflict with tonight's meeting. As the board already knows, we basically are taking 4 lots of record that were unmerged at the October 2nd, 2023 select board meeting. And we would like to consolidate and merge 2 of the lots and adjust the lot line to provide water frontage and road frontage for one of the lots and fix any potential encroachments onto the lot that was unmerged, creating 2 total building lots when this project is done, if it has been accepted by the board, and then merging the remaining lots. We had to submit an additional waiver request as part of tonight's meeting to allow for only 2 test pits, because this was a lot line adjustment. It was missed that we needed 2 more in the 4K areas, as well as because these are lots of record, we also are requesting to waive the wetland delineation. Our septic designer, who's permitted to delineate wetlands for septic designs, but not necessarily for subdivisions, determined that there was no issues out here, so that's why we're asking for that waiver. Any other questions? Like I said, I wasn't here at the last meeting, so I'm unaware if anything else needs to get brought to the board's attention.
sure. No, I appreciate that. I think there was a couple of maybe minor corrections that were done, and then we had requested that they show a proposed driveway or curb cut for tract 1 that was separate from what's currently being utilized off of non-owned parcel 72-25, where it looks like right now it's a shared driveway off the lot line and everything else. So showing a driveway that could go into tract 1, and then I think tract 4 already has its own curb cut further down Moore's Road. Right now it's a big loop, but it's this would dedicate a driveway to both. And then obviously, I think what was discussed is that if these lots were ever conveyed or separately, that the driveway in between would be abandoned. There would be that would be removed basically.
Correct.
So you didn't have this big shared driveway that doesn't meet town regulations. As for the wetlands and things like that, again, this is a lot line adjustment, so if it was a true subdivision, I would think that, so it's basically, if a building permit ever gets pulled, at that time, the applicant would still have to show that they meet proper setbacks. And same thing with the 4K areas or the test pits and septic. If they go to actually install a septic system, they're gonna have to meet town and state standards for those. So we do have 2 waivers, which we can discuss, but before we do, I can get the board opinion or comment, and then we can open up public hearing again, just to see if there's nobody really in the audience, so.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to also point out that this will be subject to a shoreland application for, any development purposes, which I can tell you I've done some, and they get quite well scrutinized by the state with respect to, the septic and the distances from the water and the wetlands and all the potential issues, so it will have lots of eyes on it, and it's a really brutal process and takes quite a long time, so I think the waiver for the wetlands at this time is basically, it's fine, because it's gonna get looked at anyway at a later point and have to comply with the state guidelines.
I'd like to counter that if I may. The reason for the waiver is because of the large number of trees, and yet that's where the septic system is gonna be. I'm trying to figure out how you can do that without removing all those trees.
So I think.
To me,
I would think,
approving a waiver that says you're not gonna remove trees so you can remove trees, makes no sense. Sorry.
no, I understand what you're saying, so I think, but I think I can let the applicants respond to, but I think what the reasoning for that being is, at the prior meeting, they indicated that they didn't have a plan right now to develop the lot, was my understanding. So there actually isn't a plan to put in a septic in those areas, but they were just trying to prove out that the area does meet. So to your point, you're correct. If they were to actually move forward and try to add structures to this and put in their septic, you're removing the trees.
Part of the shoreland
to.
is they have to caliper every tree within the first 50 feet of the shore, 50 or 150 feet?
Yeah, so the Shoreland Protection Act requires that the first 50 feet that we produce a grid, every 25-foot spacings, and we have to have so many points within that grid in order to be allowed to take down those trees.
To cut the trees.
As you get further away from the shoreline, the restrictions lessen with the state, but there still are impervious requirements, treating that runoff and drainage from any roofs. There's a disturbance fee that we have to pay to the state if we were to develop this. For every square footage we touch, we have to pay a impact fee to the state. So there's a lot of other hoops anyone would have to jump through to develop this, because it's within 250 feet of a protected shoreline.
Yeah. All that's wonderful, except you're here first for us.
Correct.
And we require 2 test pits. So I'm trying to figure out how I can approve a waiver that says we're gonna take down trees. That we're not gonna take down trees for a septic area.
Well, there is nothing within where we show the 4K area that allows us to not take down those trees, because you're outside the 50.
Right?
So the state will let you take down the trees.
Yeah.
I think the issue is getting a test pit in between the trees with the roots and digging, that because this is a lot line adjustment, they are lots of record, and Ms. Johnson has the right to sell, track 3 the way it is. Technically she could sell track 1, but there's an encroachment, if she were to do that.
Right. But the idea here is to make this as buildable as possible. And for that.
Correct.
Okay. I don't have a problem with the waiver. I have the problem with the reason for the waiver. But I don't know what the waiver would be except for this. Our requirement's 2 test pits. I don't know.
I had the very same question. You stole my question.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. And my next question would be, so is there a timeline on developing this? Is there anything in mind?
Our client is not looking to do anything with the lot besides sell it off financially in order to stay in the house. She needs the income for that.
Sure.
And so,
Okay.
there has been, she's been approached by an abutter that might wanna buy it just for waterfront access because they don't have frontage.
Right.
But that might not be where it goes. We don't know. And that would be kind of up to the purchaser to kind of do their due diligence as well. She could sell track 3 the way it is, but, we were trying to provide, some access to the water and, make it so that there isn't a house in front of her house.
Right.
it'd be next to it, if someone were to develop this piece of property.
So my question, right, is, so the only reason why we care if it's a buildable lot or not is because they're changing the lines on it, correct? Because, I mean, is
So,
that?
yeah, anything we're doing, even with the lot line adjustment, because they are already pre-existing non-conforming lots, even if this is approved, you're making lots potentially more conforming,
Yes.
but they're still non-conforming lots. So there's, whatever we're doing still does not alleviate the non-conformities that may exist. And that would still have to be addressed by, building inspector, zoning, depending on what was being done and,
But, so one, again, going back to my question is that, I mean, they had 4 lots and now they're gonna make them, one and one, and this one's coming out straight, and they're making it, right, straight. But, so, what do we care, I mean, right now, we're just making a lot, right, whether it's buildable or not. I mean, aren't we just we approved the subdivision of, separating the lots, going back to the way they were. We're asking for test pits on a lot that's a lot of record that's been around for 60 years.
Longer.
So if there was another lot, and again, there is another lot on the lake, it's on Mountain Road or Lookout Point, but it doesn't matter, we talked about it, we're not gonna go there. They were doing the same thing, they were looking at separating. Now, it's gonna have its own straight lines and everything. Do they have to come in front of us to get, even though it's been there forever, we're not gonna require them to do test pits, are they?
And did we just
Until they
do,
go for a building, like building a house on it?
if you're doing lot line adjustments, it's technically still considered a subdivision lot line adjustment by definition is still a subdivision, although we treat
Because,
them
so, just
differently.
to be
We
clear,
make-
because we're adjusting the lot lines is the reason
You're
why.
creating two
They have
different
to.
lots than what's there now, so yeah.
did we do this on Mill Pond recently? I don't remember there being test pits on that.
There's-
That was a lot line adjustment.
I would believe so, I'd have to go back and look, but that's generally, it's a pretty standard thing on all ours, is to show the 4K area and where a proposed house would be, and then obviously the building envelopes and such, so. Again, where we're at here is, they're pre-existing non-conforming, and, so we usually kind of, the way I tend to look at those is, are you increasing a nonconformity? Because if you are, that's a stop,
Yes.
basically. Or are you,
Making
still
it more
resulting in a nonconformity potentially, but making it less nonconforming. So same thing happens sometimes when someone has maybe a 10-acre lot and then a 1-acre lot, and they're gonna make that 1-acre lot, 2 or 1.5 or something. So they're making the lot basically more conforming through that process. So that's usually how, I've looked at things in the past and I think council has agreed on is if you're increasing a nonconformity, that's frowned upon, but if you're alleviating a nonconformity, but you're still not making it necessarily conforming. So again, it's not removing every obstacle that could be in their way to development, but it's making the lots less nonconforming.
The,
Yep, of course.
the orange line represents what will be the common line between the 2 new lots.
Yep.
That would be the line that would be established if approved.
All right.
So you have one,
The yellow lines are currently what exists by
Yeah.
what was unmerged.
yeah, and then you crossed out obviously the lines, that'll be gone. So you'll have one larger lot on the left, which currently has a house in its own driveway.
And it currently has a septic system.
Correct.
So why are we looking for a 4K area? Are you proposing a 4K area and a new septic system?
We're not proposing a new septic system. We did 2 test pits to prove 2 4K areas to meet the state requirement. Because we are adjusting the lot line, even though we're making a more conforming, NHDES Subsurface Bureau requested that we submit a state subdivision application for approval.
So it's not just the town.
So with the test.
But the waiver request is for having 2 test pits
2 test pits
in
per
the same
four.
4K.
Correct.
But do we need to require it for because the house already has an existing septic system.
But it doesn't mean it's even an approved septic, like, I don't have any information as to what the date of that septic system is, or if it was approved, or,
Uh-huh.
or-
So, okay.
So this is just to show that the lot does have an area that
Would meet the
subsurface
definition.
disposal, yeah.
Okay.
Brian, there is, I don't know if you're
Um,
talking about the light.
So is there any other questions from the board? If not,
Established,
I'll open the public hearing, and then I'll come back to the board.
Within that lot.
The existing driveway is there.
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Seems like
Thank you.
that could be a good spot for a test pit that would not necessarily impact roots since they're already kind of.
Trampled over.
Well, also, isn't the waiver for 2 test pits per 4K area, and there's still just 1 test pit per 4K area?
Yeah,
There are going to be more test pits either way, is that correct? Is that
No,
correct?
no, no. So they're just asking to waive our board's requirement of having 2 per 4K.
Okay,
So the state, I think,
Oh,
only
I see.
requires 1,
yep, sorry, I misread that part.
but we've generally required
So-
2.
but Drew, all I'm trying to figure out is.
Sure, a
the lot
second
that
one could go
does-
in that existing driveway, right? That,
Well, that particular lot right now is not developed, the other one is.
okay.
So the one that is not developed,
Right.
they've
I agree.
indicated that they want to sell it, and somebody moving on is going to assume that it meets requirements
Right.
for building purposes. And so that's really the only one I'm concerned about,
And I guess,
although both are
and
required.
and I don't know how feasible
If
it
they
is.
mark it
to-
as a total, this has been fully approved as a full buildable lot, if the Realtor, doesn't do the job and due diligence to express
They
the
never
proper
do.
things, then, which probably not, but
Hey,
that's,
hey,
But, our requirement is 2 test pits.
but again, the state says it only needs 1.
A
If
savvy.
you were on a different board right now, they might rule the other way and say that since the state says 1, why don't we just go by the state rule?
And I don't have a problem with that, except our regulations right now say 2.
And
If we go by the state and changed it, fine.
If we were to approve the waiver and we say, oh, you don't have to do the test pits over there, they sell the property, somebody moves in and says, hey, we're gonna put septic here, you need test pits. Nope, got a waiver. Is that what's gonna happen?
No, whoever buys this is
whatever-
gonna.
whatever we do doesn't
Wanna be
bind.
subject to getting their
Okay.
shoreland act together, so they could get an actual building permit, they're not gonna get a building permit till that. And part of that's gonna show the septic and the well and the wetlands and the,
So if
All the
eventually something's gonna be built there,
of it,
and they're gonna have to do the test pits, and they're gonna have whomever it is that
They're gonna
buys the
have to
land
do a
and
lot
does
of
all
work.
that, why are we holding them hostage today?
that's.
Because
point too.
our rule of
Rule
2 test
says-
pits.
So I think we'll get to the
Which-
point on the,
They already got
Go
1.
ahead, go ahead, Ed.
no, I think we'll get to the point on the waiver in a few minutes. We'll act on that. We can have a little bit more discussion specifically on it. So again, but to clarify, one of the questions is, say if we do allow that waiver, same thing when we waive topography on certain parts of the parcel, that doesn't mean that that's that binds the hands of the building inspector and code and things like that. So if they go to do something, they might have to show that later on, and same thing with, setbacks from wetlands and everything else. So, they'll still be required to meet whatever the town building inspector's septic permits are in the state specifically. That, whatever, our actions would not bind their hands. So I'm gonna just make sure I make it official. Public hearing is officially open. It is 7:37. If anybody would like to speak for or against or has general questions about the application, please step forward. You guys can stay seated.
Okay.
And there's none, so I will close the public hearing at 7:38. Making my notes. All right. Any other questions by the board? So if not, we can discuss the waivers, act on the waivers. There's
I
two.
might offer something else, perhaps.
Mr. Evans?
I would much rather see a reason for the waiver. It he worded something to the effect of, the state only requires 1 test pit, rather than the tree issue. Most of our lots in town are treed. This, if we waive this, it'll set a precedent that nobody needs test pits for any subdivisions. I don't think that's fair.
If you're not doing everything on a case-by-case basis and not setting precedents, that's a different story there.
I agree in general with it. I think the reasoning here is a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't seem to hold much weight for me. It should, if it's a financial concern, if it's just because the state, only requires 1, I think that should be stated rather than using mature trees on the site, especially since one of the test pit areas has an existing gravel drive going through it, which to me seems like that would be a good place to put a test pit as well, maybe not, but.
The only thing, I guess, my question about it was, you know, I'm not so worried about the precedent side of it, because I think more was, it's case by case specific, but I do like to be consistent. But my thought was, again, I know sometimes on bigger subdivisions, you know, it's a boring machine that goes out and does the sampling, and obviously those are different for the root systems and things like that. When the ground's frozen, probably less of a concern. But I believe some of these, when you have these, are a lot of these just hand dug, or,
No, we had an excavator come in and dig the holes.
okay.
But typically,
Oh,
you
it's
know,
probably hand digging
something
them.
like this, we try to have, you know, existing lots of record, use a smaller machine, to not disturb the existing yard, that kind of thing. To your question about the test pit in the driveway, I mean, we can do that. The idea is to try to get to natural undisturbed soils.
Right.
So whatever gravel material is on top of the driveway kind of gives us some false information, because it's not natural, it's not undisturbed. So we always try to give the natural undisturbed, because that really gives us a good soil profile to figure out really where, the soil data is. And then kind of looking at the test pit is kind of my second argument here is, you know, we have seasonal highs at 30 and 33 inches. We're not close to meeting minimum standards by any means. So, you know, typically, I think the intent of the 2 test pits per 4K area, which is a very seacoast thing, is we have a lot of clay type of soils, high water table, and to make sure that throughout the 4K area that you have a substantial area for a bed, for a receiving layer. A lot of times, you know, we find in a little bit closer to the seacoast, you know, the clay marine till soils, that the water table is skirting within an inch or two of what the regulations say. And having 2 test pits in 50 feet, or within the 4K area, you might have one that's no good, and that really is borderline. This area, you know, we're 30 inches to seasonal high on one and 33 on the other. We have nice fine sandy loam soils. It's not particularly a problem, and where, you know, this was a lot line adjustment, you know, we were trying to keep, you know, the prices, you know, down and trying to simplify the project, because it, you know, it was a lot of record. Whoever does anything with this lot will have to get, you know, approved by the town, approved by the state, shoreline, as well as the subsurface bureau. So they will have to do that, and the chances are that where we show the 4K area isn't necessarily where they're gonna end up building the septic system. You know, a lot of times, when people do subdivision applications, they cherry pick the 4K areas just to check the box, that it meets the minimum requirements. And, you know, where we showed the 4K areas was to provide it as far away from the water body as possible, because DES likes that. Anytime you can get it further from the water, that's a better, you know, position, and we're not near those minimum standards. So I guess that would be an argument that I would have to support the waiver application.
Yeah, thank you for that explanation. Pretty much every one of those reasons you gave were much more compelling than any of the reason, or than the reason that's on the waiver here. I guess my suggestion would be that I would want to see the waiver have any one of those reasons, or all of them, in a, you know, kind of condensed form, because that all makes perfect sense. The mature tree part, it doesn't really to me. I know that potentially will hold things up a little bit more, but, you know, we're here to make sure that things are being done properly.
Yeah, and I think the board could still, and it's up to the board, we can still act on the waiver using testimony to form our opinions, and then either way the vote goes on it, you know, it's either, you know, if it's in support of the waiver, we can repeat some of those comments. If it's not, you know, we can, obviously, you can repeat whatever the other comments are. But I think we can still act on the waiver as written. And again, because that's part of the point of the meetings, is to be able to accept that testimony and help us form our opinions and decisions.
So we could actually, if we're so inclined, approve the waiver request and list off for these particular reasons, and not list off the trees.
Sure.
Or have that as our very last
As our
one.
findings, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
That'd be more of like the findings of fact, yeah.
yes, yeah, that's what I'm just speaking to.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that plan because it doesn't hold anything up.
So I'll read the first waiver, and I think we should act on them independently. So the first waiver requested was from Article 8, Section 8.4.3, title heading 2 test pits, 4K area. And again, the initial reason for the waiver was due to large number of mature trees on site. It was concerned of additional test pits would unnecessarily endanger the health of the trees by disturbing the root systems. And we've since heard additional testimony, giving some additional reasoning behind, in support of single test pits. Would anybody like to make a motion in regards to that waiver request?
I'll make a motion as stated by Mr. Chairman.
Is that to approve or to deny or?
Approve the waiver.
To approve the waiver, based upon the findings and the testimony.
What he said, Alana, put that under the waiver thing.
And is there, there's a motion by Mr. Evans, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion by Mr. Severns. Is there any further discussion on the waiver for 8.4.3? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 7-0. And again, finding fact that if needed for waiver requests is the board feels based on the additional testimony and reasoning provided for the waiver, justifies this waiver for this specific case in lot configuration, and that the, DES permitting would still be required if they go to install them. Second waiver is for Article 16, Section 16.3.2K, wetland delineation, asking to waive this requirement because the lot line adjustment is seeking to take 4 pre-existing non-conforming lots of record to make 2 lots that are more conforming. Is there anybody like to make a motion specifically about that waiver?
I want to ask one question before we
Yep.
make any motion. I just want to make sure, so any future development on this would end up requiring a wetland delineation for any type of building on this second currently vacant lot. Is that right? Through the, shoreland protection or DES or anything else?
Yes, correct. So anything, that happens on this lot, because the entire lot is within 250 feet,
Yeah.
will require, a shoreland permit application, which requires the wetland delineation, requires the proposed structures, driveways, impervious areas, septic systems. That has to get approved through, DES shoreland, and then, once that's approved, they go back to DES subsurface for the septic approvals.
And then for the building permit, they may not require it to
Yeah,
the
the
same
building
level, but they would make sure that, same thing, that if there's wetlands identified, that they're gonna have to meet the setbacks.
Thank you.
And your firm does this work?
Correct.
Okay, so, yep.
I'll make a motion to approve a request for waiver to Article 16, Section 16.3.2K for wetland delineation.
Second.
So that's a motion by Mr. Stevens, second by Mr. Evans, to approve the waiver, the second waiver that was requested. Any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no abstentions, that motion carries 7-0. And again, finding fact is that, again, based on the location of the lots, that any future development potential would have to go through state permitting and local permitting processes that may require those items later on. Okay, so now we're back to the application. I guess my only additional comments, I don't know if it was added in notes, but I don't think it was. I would just personally like to see something that shows that this driveway access is gonna be abandoned. So they're showing the proposed driveway cut for tract 1, but something showing that the current access will be abandoned, and then obviously that the access between the 2 parcels would be abandoned and I think it'd be fine to say if the lots are, but if the lot is conveyed or something like that. Because again, obviously, the
I'll second
applicant
that
may
motion.
hold on to it, or, the applicant may hold on to it, or, or sell both of them. And again, if someone holds them in common ownership, I have no problem with keeping the driveway between the 2. But again, that first curb cut, that's not on the property at all, I'd like to just see that removed, just to clean things up.
If that's a fair note we can add to the plan.
Okay. Does the board have any other comments, questions, concerns? If not, I think we are at the point of making a motion for either approval or denial. And if approved, one of the conditions was what we just mentioned, which is abandoning show that the curb cut that is off the parcel in 7225 will be abandoned.
Do we have a standard set of conditions for a lot line adjustment?
It's usually final, any approvals that are needed. I'm just looking back. Staff memo is, so again, plan copies with professional seals and signatures, and surveyor stamps, and, which are normal. Original Mylar, professional seals and signatures, any electronic submissions, all fees paid, any additional items that we list, and then it's I don't think you have any additional monuments to be set.
Yeah, there's some additional monuments that would be set as part of this. We're showing to be sets, so we will have to set those once approved.
On the common line?
Yes, we show the symbol as a solid circle, says monument to be set on the new common line. And there's a couple missing exterior corners that we were going to set as part of this approval process.
The corners are usually the granite bounds, and then you can do pins and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so it's a monument set is the other usually condition that's very standard.
I will make a motion to accept or approve case 25-004 LLA with the conditions that we get plan copies with professional seals and signatures from a surveyor. We have the original Mylar with professional seals and signatures, an electronic submission per regulations and as-built as required, all fees paid, monuments set,
Curb cut.
and
Abandonment
The curb
of the
cut.
driveway.
what's the curb?
The driveway?
Abandoning the current, okay, and adding a note to the plan that abandons the existing driveway access through the new lot that's being made.
Second.
Such a motion by Mr. Stevens, a second by Mrs. Bascom. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes, I do. The notes show that this is a merger of these lots. Do we need to integrate that into this decision that it was unmerged, now we're merging and then doing this lot line? Is that is that?
No, we'll state that in the notice of the finding of fact.
I meant to say at the beginning, 25-004 LLA and lot merger. If I didn't add the and lot merger on it, I might not have, but
Okay.
my intention was to
Good.
take it all as one.
Yeah.
So any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? That motion carries 7-0. Again, findings of fact for this is that by approving this lot line adjustment request, we're taking 4 existing non-conforming lots of record, resulting in 2 lots of record that are still non-conforming, but are less non-conforming than the 4 that are currently existing.
Perfect.
So this means the applicant can now take this to market.
Well,
To market.
it's not final until we sign off on it, until we have all our stuff. But
And you wanna make sure you wait your 30 days before in case something else happens that goes on from our
Appeal
decision,
period.
that changes that decision, there's.
So yes, do you have any questions for us? I'm sorry.
No, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the board tonight for hearing us, and we will work on adding those additions, getting the corners set, and getting you guys the Mylar for the 30-day appeal period.
Thank you. And obviously, for everybody, with the lot line adjustment, unlike a subdivision, it's not final until they pass a deed. So if they never pass the deed, the lot line adjustment doesn't really occur. So once they pass the deed and we sign off on everything, that's when it's final. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
When you say pass a deed, do you mean record the plans?
No, actually convey a deed.
Well, if she keeps it, Oh, for that reason, it's not a lot line adjustment if it stays in common ownership.
Unless you actually record a deed that separates the tracks,
Okay.
that's my understanding.
What's the
That's right.
question about?
Can you record a
So
deed
for-
without a sale?
Yes,
No,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can
because-
record
you can't
anything.
record a deed without a subdivision approval. It creates, so the paper, that
That's what we're
paperwork has to
doing
come
today.
first.
Okay.
Yes, and then,
But
and
you
then
don't
can-
have to do anything with the properties.
Okay.
No, so you get, every once in a while, you'll have a phantom lot line adjustment that was done at some point that never actually changed hands, and then, people discover them usually during a real estate transaction, and then come before us and request that it be dissolved.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that's the difference between subdivisions are live right after approval and things are signed, whereas these are not. A little nuance. We had a tentative case for conceptual. We only put it on the agenda in case they were here. They'll probably be here for the next meeting in March, but we'll solidify that with the applicant, so we'll just move on from that. Straight into other, I just put this on here, master plan subcommittee. So again, the plan for the first meeting, everybody that volunteered for that subcommittee has been contacted. The first meeting will be March 5th in this room. I just wanted to kind of have a quick discussion on this here. Again, that initial meeting, Blair is gonna kind of spearhead for us. He's already kind of set an agenda for it. It'll be the formation meeting, obviously election of officers, and then kind of going over an idea of the plan and timeline involved for the process. So the way that looks right now is obviously the first part will be the housing chapter, and anything that the housing grant that we are receiving will cover, because that's what we have funds for. After that, if the Conservation Commission receives a grant that can help us do the natural resources section of it, then we'll probably add that on. But one of my thoughts was that subcommittee, those are the goals initially. Ideally, the whole master plan would get updated or different chapters, but the subcommittee is gonna have a little bit of autonomy in setting their time frame on it, and how often the board requests that they check in. It could be monthly, it could be every quarter, depending on what it is. That was my thoughts on it, but, if anybody else has anything that they would like to see or, added to that agenda for it, please, speak up, and we can definitely make sure that it gets on there. I think Mr. Stephens has been through it before, I think. Mr.
Yeah,
Haskins was
we
probably
didn't
through
have any
it.
grants, so there was
Yeah.
no timelines per se, but, two of us were on the planning board anyway, so there was updates going on. There was only four of us, so it wasn't,
And people rolled on, rolled off too, right? Did you have like public
Uh,
people come in from the public side every once in a while for certain chapters, or no?
there was only four people, sometimes five. Stratford Regional Planning, guy was there,
Yeah, and that was a heavy lift, because that was taking a very outdated
but, yeah. And it-
plan and making it actual.
And the whole census aspect of it was trying to justify what the census showed.
Yep.
Which I'm not sure is accurate. But I mean, just use the numbers as kind of a basis, but if things doubled, you go, okay, that's because housing starts doubled, or, something to that effect, but.
Sure.
The new school was there, so there was an influx of people from that kind of stuff. But yeah, we would typically meet every week and typically hash out a section a month. I guess.
Yeah, and so Mr. Haney will be able to kind of spearhead some of it again, but obviously, if we're using the grant funds, he'll be limited on some of those other chapters initially, but if we'll have a better idea where we are contractually with SRPC, because the town budget's annual, but the SRPC contract is July 1st to June 30th. So we'll see how some of the changes we've done in fee structure, the goal for that was to free up some of our budget to allow this board to start doing things like the master plan, get outside help for the impact fee piece of it, which is also due, overdue. So we'll have a better idea of where we're at with that.
Question about that. Should that be like these meetings are?
Doesn't have to be recorded necessarily, but the minutes do have to be taken as part of it. Yep. So they will have to keep official minutes and then, same thing, approve the minutes after they're drafted and everything else. So oftentimes for the subcommittees, there's somebody that's actually taking the minutes and will draft them and then they'll approve them. Those generally don't go through the person that does the minutes for here. They can.
Yeah, I
They
just
can
wanted
just
to
for
make sure.
formatting.
We'd have to ask Nancy to be setting up the videos.
That's a great point, and I did go to a class today, the third of four, for this whole planning and what's involved, and it's really quite dynamic and interesting. We had two other people from town also that attended, so there's a lot to learn. Blair is gonna be very helpful, because he's done this before, and kind of driving as the kind of third-party facilitator, not in the town, and trying to keep all the people in town focused in the direction, right, Blair?
That's the plan.
Yeah, to provide that guidance and assistance. Again, I think with a lot of the volunteers, or some of the volunteers that we have, a lot of these individuals I recognize as names as people that are pretty knowledgeable on different aspects of the town. So I think we're off to a good start with who's volunteered so far. And again, we have 10 versus the 4 from last time, so we're doing okay. So I think that's the goal of that first meeting again, and then after that, that committee will work together and set the next their agendas and.
Are those meetings going to occur in this room?
Generally, unless there's a conflict for the town.
Then why would you not turn it on?
We can. I mean,
Yeah, because my approach is that it's for the citizens of Nottingham. That if they want to get involved, but they can't make it, they can watch it live, or they can get the recording, but it's for them, not us.
No, I agree. So that's a good point. So if for the first meeting, if there's a way to get that scheduled, to have that on, and then we'll make sure that whoever is on that committee, that gets conveyed to you, and the next meeting will be, because obviously we'll have to get it published, and then try to see if we can get the room reserved and
And turning it on and off, or whatever.
Well, right now it's plug and play. You push one button, it's on. You push one button, it's
But
on.
somebody needs to know what that button is.
Which button that is.
I'll
right?
fill you in. Let me know when you're having the meeting, I'll show somebody.
arrow.
But a lot.
And she does work to make it go from the recording onto the website, and you to cut it and stuff like that, so it's a little bit more.
Yeah. I'm thinking more of the live broadcast.
No, I understand. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that there's not I don't believe there's a lot of people that know how to run that. Certainly not 5,000 people in town know how to run that machine.
Push button.
I think
don't
you
want them
should,
to.
I think you should come to that meeting and
Poke
push,
the buttons.
push to the buttons that need to
I'm
be-
available.
Okay.
$1 down, $1 a day.
That's actually in our budget.
All
You
right.
wait, John, you wait.
So again, real good feelings about that subcommittee, and again, as the board, after they form and they have their agenda, they'll probably submit something to this board, and then, you guys, the board can have meetings with them as often or infrequently as needed, for an update. Public comment, this is the time of night we always reserve for, any individuals of the public to come in and ask us questions about land use, planning board, items that are not case-specific or application-specific. So we just try to make sure people know that there is a time that you can come in and ask us questions if you're curious. Mr. Decker, you got anything? Nope. There's no one that's coming for us tonight for that. So I'll move on to the minutes of February 12th, 2025. I had 5, a couple are minor, so I'll just read mine real quick. Line 77, the vote count is just off. It was showing a 601, but it should be 610, because it was against, and it's 4 against and abstain. I think it was 601 is the way it was recorded, which was showing us an abstention, but it's against, so it's 610. Line 108, add gallon to after the 300,000. Line 109, and Alana, I've got these written down. Line 109, just add verbiage indicating that the applicant stated this tank would be accessible by the town for the fire department to utilize as needed. Line 192 at the end, add as outlined in the board's bylaws and rules of procedure. That's just clarifying the motion about, that reference to subsection. That's where it's coming from. And the last one is line 243. I'm just recommending to amend this line to read, as Mr. Haney reported, Susan Mooney and someone else went through the current master plan to see what was completed from the list of action items that had been created during the last update process.
Oh, do we have that available, by the way?
We can probably find it.
That was probably,
I've got it somewhere.
That was an interesting point that they talked about, measuring the success today, and, you know, and the goals, and how those were implicated, you know, and what the future might look like.
I'm sure I've got it in an email somewhere. I'll make a note to myself to see if I can track that down and
That'd be
get it
great,
out.
yeah.
It was from her.
No, I don't know where she might have something. She doesn't communicate that to me directly, but in the past, the board had it. So when the last master plan was done, there was all these action items that were set by that committee. You know, some were tasked to the select board, some were tasked to the conservation commission, planning board, various departments. So, and then they were ranked low priority, high priority, ongoing. So basically, I know this board, I think, has tackled the majority of the ones that we had, from memory, but I could find that list too. I know I've got an email somewhere, because I'm sure I didn't delete it.
Sorry for the tangent. We'll make a motion on accept the minutes as, with the changes as outlined.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Evans and second by Mrs. Bascom to accept the minutes of February 12th, 2025 as amended. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries 7-0. All right, staff, board member updates. Mr. Severns, you can go first.
in regards to the master plan update, and being active in the recreation department, I think the recreation department is also looking at updating section of the master plan for that, for those purposes also. So I'll help them with that.
Perfect, yeah, we can probably make sure they get, if we haven't sent it out to the town department, I think all the town departments were included, so we can make sure they're aware that that subcommittee's meeting. That'd be a good one for them someone to go to if they can.
Yeah. That's it.
I was not gonna say anything, but now I'm gonna, because you were, I think this initial master plan is particular to the housing, section of the master plan, so I don't know how much more can be put on that committee, but you know.
This is separate from your committee?
It
But-
is.
But the intro would be a good session to go to, I think, for anybody that wants to update the master plan.
Yeah. And in this master plan, it looked like there was, outreach to a lot of different, parties in the town, you know, different interests, from the conservation side, the fire department, police, et cetera, so that, there's a lot of input from a lot of people that, and recreation certainly one of those, but.
Yeah, they're just looking at their section, so. We're not gonna try and suck any money off the grant.
No, but the goal, again, I guess the goal is the entire master plan needs to be updated, so right now, we've got the grant funding for the housing. I don't know how long that's gonna take, or, there's gonna probably be lulls on that part in the grant process. But if you have 10 committee members and you've got some momentum there, you might find that some of those individuals, wanna take on a different chapter.
Yeah.
And they kinda do a subcommittee almost, where
Yeah.
they're meeting to update, or just go through and update data, census data in different chapters.
Yeah, this would be like a pre-thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's just a good opportunity, and again, that committee will discuss some of that and figure it out.
It should be, hopefully it'll be a good, interesting group. Doug, did I hear a motion from Doug to, that we vote ourselves a raise, 100% raise?
I want to double what you're getting paid.
Didn't you get the email? What did
Yeah.
you do the last three?
Just kidding, I'm kidding.
Can't, you could double and triple the goodwill.
Oh, you didn't get that email? I'm sorry.
sending it to you.
Missed the budget season, sorry. Mr. Moore?
We had a BOS meeting on Monday. It was fairly quick. We will be having a meeting on Monday coming up. The reason why we have the meetings back to back was because of the holiday that came up. The meeting that we're gonna be having up will be with, the important part of it, two parts. The last meeting, we had the meeting with the, fire chief and went over the ALS response. So it's gonna be headed by Plastow, but there will be a thing over there. First year, we're gonna sign up, to be part of the program, but after that, there's gonna be fees involved. And it's gonna be you gotta pay in to get into it. They haven't figured out what the cost is to the town, but there's a new line item if the town wants to be part of this program and have this ALS response, it's no longer gonna be a free service. So that's gonna be a budgetary item for the next board and stuff to start considering, we don't know the cost yet of what it could be.
Even a ballpark?
Not even a ballpark.
Okay.
What is
No
ALS?
cost.
We're signing up for something we don't know what it's gonna cost.
Well, no, if we
But
sign
extra-
up right
extra
now, it's
free.
because we want the service for free.
Right,
Obviously, we'll have to sign a contract for when it comes to really doing it.
right.
And there'll be fees, and it'll be obviously, we're not gonna sign up for something and say, hey,
Sure.
without knowing, that'd be really.
Advanced life support is a requirement, in my mind. Like, we need to offer this to everybody here in Nottingham, right? No matter what.
So, but again, it's not going to be free.
Right.
That's what people have to realize.
Or
There will
close.
be a fee, there will be payment, there will be something to offer this service now. Just like every other service the town offers, it costs money. So be aware that this will be, anyways, wanna be on the budget committee coming up in 2 years or, the select board, or this will be a line item that'll be in there, and we don't know the cost yet of what it could be to provide this service, so.
Yeah.
Community outreach to support it, to have it, because again, it could be a $10,000 service, it could be a $20,000.
Well, who knows? It could be self-supporting.
We don't know.
This goes back to,
Could be some self-support, right?
But whoever
exactly.
uses that service they have to pay a fee.
Sure,
The insurance companies cover part of that, though.
Yeah.
sure, if it wants to have it.
but this goes back to the,
But again, getting back to that, so whatever, that was just our meeting,
Yep.
watch it on YouTube and see what the chief said, whatever, go for it, just bring it up. And the next meeting we're gonna have is, one of the big items will be the rec department for the rec, taking out some funds for the rec revolving fund to do some additional work that's needed, back here for the playground area, with, not tents, but, structures, when you sit there with kids, shadings, yeah, shading structures and stuff.
Like
That'll be all
pergolas?
brought up.
Like pergolas, which,
Like what, pergolas?
like pergola? You're saying shady areas?
Yeah, making like, so there's a whole, I don't know all that much about it, I only saw a brief thing, so
Okay.
we'll learn about it on Monday.
well, and hopefully in that year, the municipalities in this region also decide if they want to pool to create that same service closer to here, because obviously coming from Plastow,
Well, it's actually, they're gonna be headed out of Brentwood.
okay, a little closer, but
But
Yeah.
Stop flashing.
it's-
Not a whole lot.
The question is the cost factor, and again, not to go, again, there's only so much information we know,
Yeah.
but,
it's the same response
know-
time is going to be pretty long.
I mean, this is 24-hour service, 2 people on all the time.
Yep.
Okay, well, it's great if you have 25 towns.
Yeah.
But what if it only goes to 12 towns or 8 towns that need the service that wants to do it? Because maybe Raymond doesn't need it because they're full-time. Maybe, that you start losing, the cost could change. So again, these are things that just to be thought about. It's not today's problem. It will be coming up, but just be aware. And thank you guys all for your service in coming in.
Thank you.
Planning board. So,
Thank you for your
it's been a pleasure
service.
with you guys.
Great having you here.
And we will, I'm sure you'll see me.
Yelling
So,
at us once in a while.
hey, somebody's gonna keep you in line, Chris.
He was looking for a fist bump.
All right, that's good for me.
I'm all set.
The only thing I had, and I shared this with, made sure that Alana, land use clerk, and Blair, the contract planner, is aware of that we do have, obviously, the new town council contract, which is with Drummond and Woodsum. So I shared the contact information, just did a quick introductory email to the council there, Matt Surge, and then he sent back another assistant attorney, that's Lee Bodden, I think. I'm probably pronouncing his last name, going from memory, but just to try explain what the board has done in the past. Again, the board will have its own purview as to what they do in the future, but some of the initiatives that we're looking potentially to do, which was, we may try to bill back some of the costs to the applicant. So just to make sure they're aware of that, and again, just to start to say hello, let them know that we do CC Blair on our stuff. Obviously, he's our contract planner, so that should be covered under our client attorney privilege. But yeah, so obviously whoever is on as chair for the board in March will be provided that contact information too, and to make sure that they know who to go to for any new issues. We're still going Tufton and Hatfield for any outstanding issues for continuity, but anything new, we're trying to make sure we can get to the right place. And obviously this is bittersweet, but it's my last planning board meeting for the time being anyway as well, after, I think this is my 13th year, so it's been,
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
all your service.
I appreciate everybody here and everybody that I've served with on this board. It's, it's a lot. It's been a long period. I really have gained a lot from this, and really value my time here. And we have a very special town. I didn't grow up in the town, but I think it's a very special place, and a lot of really caring people and really phenomenal people here. So thank you all for everything you've been.
You went a long way, but to keeping it a very special place over the past 13 years.
Appreciate that.
You did.
That's all I have. Sorry, Drew, I did it to you again.
Hard to follow that one up, right? I just have a question that I guess is more of a clarification question. If there's a case that's before the planning board and it's going before the ZBA for relief of some sort, and as a member of the planning board, you have information about the case that hasn't been, presented at a planning board meeting, but it might be helpful for the zoning board as well in their determinations. Is there a proper mechanism by which that information would be given to Alana to be given to the ZBA, or is that something that a planning board member should not do? I'm just kind of looking for guidance on
Currently, I am the ZBA rep as well. I'm on
Yeah, you serve
ZBA,
on
and
both boards.
I'm currently the chair. So it has actually made it really easy for that. When I'm no longer serving, it may be that people want to, this board may want to continue that. But otherwise, we usually just have, for ZBA itself, you're only looking at what they're asking for. Nothing else on that application really matters. So if they came in looking for relief of, I don't know, like we had the other day, for relief of the square footage on their detached ADU that they wanted, but they're planning to build a 3-car garage with a detached ADU on top. But the only thing they're coming to us for is that detached ADU. And you had information about that square footage of the garage, it wouldn't matter. So that's the one thing that you need to be aware of with it. The ZBA only deals with what they're coming for them,
right.
for them for.
So
I
if it
guess
was
I would
something-
say, I guess I err on side of caution again, because I don't want to, overstep or cross a line. So I guess
Which is why I'm asking, yeah.
that's where I lean on like SRPC a little bit. I'll check in with them. I'll say, hey, I've got this thought or this concern, should I submit this as a member of the planning board, or, as a public comment, because that's probably allowed as well. Or is there any kind of conflict in that if you do so, and that would preclude you from, being on this side? Not to drop more on Blair's plate, but, they are a great resource for that, because they see things from other towns and everything else, and they can lean on people on staff, on their staff too, just to field that a little bit, so.
There are cases, I don't know, you guys could probably talk about this, because I haven't been here that long, obviously, but there are cases where you do joint meetings on a very complicated case between the zoning and planning, where, all the information's put out there, but what the zoning board does, what the planning board does, what the building department do are slightly different, so there's different processes.
Yeah, my question is just more about the flow of information between a member of the planning board and what's appropriate and what's not. Like, I understand the difference in function between the two boards, I just want to, wanted to get some clarity on that, but I'll just run it by Blair and see what he thinks.
So to
Initially, I
Teresa,
think it's, especially if it's
Stevens
case
Hill is
specific.
also going
Yeah,
into
all right.
the ZBA, right?
Yeah, that's, I believe that's on the next agenda. Yeah, so they're on our, that's why they're on our
Can't you just go
26.
there as a resident and just say, hey, I'm here as a resident, and I'm just gonna throw out this information?
I'm sure you can, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that,
Just sit there, you can do that, absolutely.
And I'm
I've
probably
done it.
gonna go to that meeting just to kind of see what,
Again, ZBA has, like, for them themselves, they have different, different rules that they have to abide by to avoid prejudgment, things like that. So it's a lot, they're held to a much stricter standard than the planning board is. We're still very, hold a very high ethical standard and everything else too. I'm not saying that we're unethical. But they have much different set of rules that they have to follow, and it's
The 5
very
criteria.
strict. It's judicial, there's quasi-judicial, if I remember the terms correctly. So you can, I'd say if there's something you feel, you can go in as a member of public. The only thing is, if it's sound like you're really judging an application, the applicant might try to use that during the planning board side of it, saying, we feel they're biased or prejudged, but I might be overthinking that and overreaching. But again, I would just, if it's a case specific or if there's something coming up, just run it by Blair and initially, and I think he can give you some guidance.
appreciate it. That's all I had.
The only thing I have is to say thank you for tolerating me for a year. I have enjoyed my time here for a year. I've learned an awful lot. I'm not going to run for re-election, that's obvious, but I'm not going away. I'm always looking for new areas to volunteer for my community, and there's plenty of them, and I'll be back.
Never
We
lost an
still need
election.
an alternate.
Never lost an election.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cummings. You've been instrumental this year, and we really appreciate you stepping up this year. And the way you conduct yourself at the meetings has been admirable, and a lot of respect shown for the board and for the applicants, and it's been
Thank you.
appreciated.
We don't have any planning board alternates right now, do we?
No.
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 So the only other thing, to Mr. Stevens' point, I would encourage us, especially as we get new members, questions are great. And again, if it's just case specific, I always err on the side of caution of trying to avoid it between members or during a hearing. Reach out to Blair for a second. He can, again, kind of provide a little bit of guidance, or when the next chair, check in with the chair and they can try to give some guidance too. But questions are great. That means you're thinking, and as you dig into more cases, you're gonna, more questions will come up, not less. So that's a good thing.
And it's always okay to reach out to the chair of the zoning board and say, hey, what do you think about this? Whoever that may be. Because if it's you from the planning board reaching out just to the chair, and it would be just to the chair with something as a concerned citizen, then you're not creating a group within the zoning board exactly for a
That
quorum.
makes sense.
Mr. Haney?
Yeah, so, keeping with the discussion tonight, I just want to say thank you and express my admiration for everybody that is leaving, but who has served. I've been a civil servant my whole career, or probably about 90% of it. I've been in a lot of rooms that have been empty, talking about important stuff, big projects, and maybe only 2 or 3 people show up. But you guys have showed up second and fourth Friday every month for whatever it's been, a year, 13 years, regardless. So honestly, I see it and I definitely appreciate it. It's not my community, but just as somebody that goes to a lot of these meetings. So, be happy with
You can
yourself.
say we're the best. It's fine.
Yeah.
When are you gonna join us?
Let me get on Redfin real quick.
Thank you, Blair, for your help and assistance.
Oh, thank you.
Been good.
I don't really have much other than to say that.
Survey.
What's that?
For
You
the
gotta fill
survey.
out the survey.
I did mine.
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot to mention that.
The regional municipal.
Regional plan survey.
Plan survey, yeah.
Yes.
That's online, and
I did follow up on the questions that you had. Didn't I? Did I tell you
I saw
guys?
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I
that
did
made a
follow
lot of
up.
sense.
Appreciate that.
Basically, why is there all the questions about electric car? It's like, because as communities might be looking to update their zoning for infrastructure, it's to gauge that, to try to help identify it. That made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Surveys are tough.
Yeah.
They're always very tough. get the information back that you're truly looking to get back in a valid standpoint.
It's a whole science career in and of itself, is
Yeah.
just developing surveys so that you can make it easy to take, but also get the information that
Skip just answered C on every one of them, so.
Yeah, exactly. Other than that, I don't have anything. I did email Tom, and he sent. Okay, so you have it.
Yes.
So he did send us the hydrogeological report,
Okay.
so we do have it now.
Okay, perfect.
He just
We'll
got
make
it.
sure CMA gets that, if they didn't have it already.
And then I will follow up with CMA on getting a price thing back for us.
And they can, yeah, so I don't know, we can definitely tell them it's approved to move forward as soon as we know that, because the applicant agreed to it. And then on the 19th, the meeting of the 19th, that's the merger, not the merger, the formation meeting after election. SRPC will be here as well to do a check-in, just.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Annual, whatever it's gonna be, just to check in with the board. It's a good time to meet new members and all that too. So even though it's non-business, that's still considered non-business, because it's not any case-specific items, it's just checking in.
Yeah, I'll be here, but Jen will be here as well. She is the director of SRPC, so she'll be here to talk to you guys.
Yeah, so again, ideally, anybody that's running for the board that signed up is paying attention to our cases and our agendas, and everything's online for a reason. That's to make it easier for the, residents and everybody else to see what we have, review plans, submit comment, if they want. So hopefully they're keeping up to speed with the cases that we have before us, but obviously the first meeting with those continued cases might be a little bit slower, just to catch people up to speed.
Also, I dropped off 5 of the PLUR books, the land use regulation books that are updated from recent legislation. I know some of you mark yours, so you probably don't even want to give it up, but if you are in need of a new one, was it just the 3 of you? Maybe just check with Alana as you're asking for them, if you're going to ask for them, so that we can try to make sure that the new people definitely get them, because they don't have anything, most likely. So, if you want to check in with her.
Do the old ones help?
They do, they just miss out on any legislation changes that would impact it
Yeah.
in the last year.
I,
There were a few, but,
Definition of a butter, we know that one.
yeah.
can you make copies of each of those so you can stuff?
The thing though too is that if anybody should have an issue with something, they can actually question, did you reference the book? And if they see that we all have this one and don't, or an older one and don't have the new one, it can cause a problem.
Yeah, I just
So
kept
and
going
you
on.
can see, Blair, I do look through mine. all
Yeah,
the
no,
time.
I mean, everybody's like that. I have the digital one, but, yeah, no, I get it.
Mine's pretty much new, because I go online to look for my stuff.
Yeah, that's,
Unless you're here, so as long as someone at the meeting has
The new
newest,
one,
that's
yeah.
the biggest thing, so.
I don't think I'll use it again, so
I would recommend we just keep one in with the land use stuff, that way there's always a copy here in case. it
Yeah,
needs to
make
go.
sure there's one left for Mr. Decker too on the board of selectmen, he needs one.
All right, and Alana, do you
Don't
have
forget him as
anything
member.
for us?
Yeah, well, Blair already got him, yeah.
Well,
Yes,
there's
make
just
sure.
one new case, from March 26th, and it is for, Deerfield Road for 5 lots subdivision. That came to the board previously for design review, so that will be there, and then also new computer.
yeah.
When's it, that's coming in the next?
Excellent.
That's March 26th.
Okay.
Perfect.
I kind of wondered what happened to that one that popped in here and consult and.
So then the question is gonna be, there's a vote on some of the new planning board rules on the 11th. Will that group be subject to steep slopes?
So, any application that comes before the board, since we held our public hearing for zoning, so any new application has to adhere to those unless they get voted down. But
Gotcha.
the exception with that is if you had a design review, I think that locks you into a 12-month window into the zoning that was there.
Okay.
We ran into that with the Route 4 condos.
Yep.
Unless that's changed. But I guess that'll be a question that comes up when any case comes in.
So a design, well, right, because they notified a butters, so that's, design review locks.
Conceptual does not lock anybody into
Yeah,
anything.
but design
review locks you into the
freezes
current
your,
zoning
freezes your zoning, yeah.
for 12 months.
Otherwise, it's when the board holds their first public hearing
Yeah.
on a zoning amendment, then that makes you,
Gotcha, all right.
So anybody that's in that window between January and the March election has the risk, if they don't go abide by the new zoning items that are amended, and the ballot approves them, and they didn't meet them, then they fail.
Okay.
But
And I'll be, I'll be seeing most everybody here when we open up the new meeting room for the first couple of weeks. I'm gonna attend every meeting to make sure the equipment works as required.
so just be an alternate. That's
Can we name that, have we named that room yet? Like
Not
the
yet.
Doug Cummings room?
No.
the Doug Cummings audio-visual.
Yeah.
Judith is planning your,
My cremation,
cremation, yeah.
she'll have to wait a week.
All right, everybody. Again, thank you all. I like every meeting, my goal is to get you out of here by 8:30, and that's what I usually do. So it's wherever it's the next chair, it's no pressure. But 8:30 meetings is usually the goal. And but thank you to everybody. Again, I'm gonna miss you all, but I know I see everybody around town, and I'll see you a little less frequently. So thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you.